So it's in using a non-linear format, by jumping from place to place in time, that The Witcher tells 3 parallel stories over 3 different timelines that all manage to coalesce into one thematic character arc.
Jaskia's telling the story out of order again. That's the thing about time. When it flows in order, from point A to point B, we find it really easy to keep track of. That's how we're wired. Our lives start at the beginning, and they end at the end. It doesn't make any sense to start at the end. That's of course, except when it comes to stories. Since the beginning of our recorded history of stories, authors have always loved to play with time. This could come in the form of flashbacks or prophecies spoiling the ending, or even entire prequels written about existing myths and legends. As long as stories have been around, storytellers have been playing with time to make sure they tell the best story possible.
And The Witcher's much maligned time jumps are just such an example. This was probably the only manageable way to adapt a series that introduces the bulk of its characters and story arcs over a collection of short stories, instead of as one cohesive narrative work. But not only that, though our 3 protagonists spend large portions of the story separated by years or even decades, their thematic character arcs are tied together across time. And that thematic connection, the central idea that links Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri together, is a simple one. They have to leave their self-interest behind and learn to grow as people, taking responsibility for their actions and accepting that their decisions can have powerful consequences. Or, in the more mystical, fantastical terminology of the continent, they have to embrace destiny.
You know, the Countess de Stael once said to me, "The destiny is just the embodiment of the soul's desire to grow."
So let's dig right in to Geralt. Our first episode introduces us to a relatively younger Geralt. A Geralt who is about to try to accept a greater responsibility when he enters the town of Blaviken. There he meets Renfri, a woman willing to kill anyone who gets in the way of her quest for revenge against Stregobor, a wizard who killed dozens of women because they happened to be born during a solar eclipse. Geralt is repeatedly told he has to choose a side, and in the end, though he's developed feelings for Renfri, he has to choose the so-called lesser evil. As bad as he is, Stregobor isn't threatening to kill a town full of peasants. But this decision backfires on Geralt when he refuses to allow Stregobor to experiment with Renfri's corpse. The people of the town label him a butcher and pelt stones at him as he's driven out of Blaviken after having had to kill a woman he cared for. So from that moment on, for most of the rest of the season, he avoids responsibility at all costs, in the hopes of never having to go through something like that again. Or in his own words,
"So that's all life is to you? Monsters and money?"
It's all it needs to be.
But halfway through his adventures, a greater purpose comes banging right at his door.
Geralt of Rivia, the mighty Witcher!
Shit.
When he saves Duny in the court of Sintra, he claims the Law of Surprise as his reward, and almost immediately he is confronted with his prize, a child of surprise. A child he did not know or conceive is now to be his responsibility. They are linked by fate. Needless to say, he does not take that well.
Fuck.
And he vows he will never have anything to do with the child. Rather than accepting this greater responsibility, he runs away again, and he stays on his path of money and monsters. But this more self-centered approach to life keeps catching up with him. He can't sleep.
You need a nap.
He finds people he loves and then drives them away.
I'll take advice from you about children as soon as you take responsibility for the one you bound to you and then abandoned.
Until eventually he has to be told off by a wise old dragon that the reason why he can't develop, the reason he can't be happy, is he's forsaken his greater responsibility.
What you're missing is still out there. Your legacy. Your destiny. I know it. And you know it.
Without accepting it, he can never grow as a person. And so it's after this low point in his personal journey that Geralt finally accepts he has to return to Sintra and to Ciri. In doing so, he can finally start growing and facing his own personal demons. And we see this directly in flashbacks to his mother and his trauma from his Witcher training. Though these moments are painful, he is now able to face them and grow as a person because he has accepted a greater responsibility. And as timelines converge, we see that growth lead to a fated meeting with the girl in the woods.
Who is Yennefer?
And just who Yennefer is also explored by the season's timey-wimey shenanigans. By starting her arc many decades before she's ever even met Geralt, we get a much better picture of who Yennefer is as a person, and her own parallel journey in accepting a greater responsibility. When we first meet Yennefer, she's physically and emotionally abused by both her parents and her community, just for being different, a descendant of elves. And when she is literally sold into the school of sorcery, the treatment she receives at the hands of Tissaia is a whole different kind of abuse in and of itself. And so she's determined that she will prove all of them wrong. She will be beautiful, and she will be powerful, and she will get everything she wants. So she chooses to forsake her role guiding Nilfgaard, instead choosing the more prestigious kingdom of Aedirn, to disastrous consequences for the world at large.
Perhaps if Nilfgaard's religious zeal had been tempered earlier by a stronger hand.
This decision also has personal consequences. After years of guiding Aedirn, she realizes that all the Brotherhood of Sorcerers care about is maintaining the status quo. As long as kings, nobles, and sorcerers hold on to their power, that is all that matters. So if kings want to murder their wives because they won't produce a male heir, well then, so be it.
I really, really love that instead I've gotten to spend the last 3 decades cleaning up stupid political messes.
She realizes that this hollow purpose means literally nothing to her, and it stings all the more because to fulfill it, she gave up her ability to have children. All for a lie.
And you'll trade it all for what? Looks that never change? A court full of idiots? But you don't have to do it.
Not only that, but she's then hit with the double whammy that Geralt, the man she's grown to love, is only in her life because of some magical wish. There too, her choice was robbed from her.
They took my choice. I want it back. Not that I'd expect you to understand.
Thanks to the convergence of their timelines, she reaches the low point of her character arc at the same time as Geralt. After hearing Borch's words, she thinks that there is no hope for her. She has no real legacy to leave on the world. The power she fought for was hollow and meaningless, she can't have children, and the men she loved both betrayed her. She believes that there is nothing left for her.
It's time to accept that life has no more to give.
You still have so much left to give.
But at the Battle of Sodden Hill, she realizes that there is something she can fight for beyond herself. In seeing the sacrifice of her fellow sorcerers and the villagers who are willing to stand against the might of Nilfgaard, she sees something worth fighting for.
It's your turn to save these people, this continent. And this is your legacy.
She can embrace her power, accept the responsibility that comes with it, and turn the tide. And so she does. In accepting this destiny, she is also finally able to grow. Like Geralt, she faces the demons of her past, the demons we've seen torment her all season thanks to the non-linear story, and she overcomes them.
Where you going, clocky girl? We can teach you!
She's no daughter of mine.
Just because you fucked it up doesn't mean we will. Are you horrible, useless thing?
If only Yennefer had gone to Nilfgaard.
Sorry you chose power.
And as the timelines converge, we see that character growth projected outwards to Ciri,
Yennefer!
who is busy attending a fated meeting in the forest with Geralt of Rivia. Which, of course, brings us to Ciri. Like the two adult protagonists of the series, Ciri's journey is also one of accepting responsibility and embracing destiny. But this comes less from a place of deep personal flaws and more from one of a scared child looking for a safe haven. Her whole life, Ciri has lived cloistered in the castle at Sintra. Even her interactions with the peasant children turn out to be totally manufactured.
You thought you were better than us because we had to let you win. The only thing special about you was the fucking crown on your head.
Through meeting Dara, she sees the brutality of her warmongering grandmother, Queen Calanthe. And it's because of Calanthe's rejection of Geralt's responsibility towards his child of surprise that Ciri spends so much of this season in peril. Even so, Ciri is constantly looking for safety, even over her own quest to find Geralt of Rivia.
Find Geralt of Rivia. He is your destiny.
She seeks shelter with refugees, and then again hides out in Broccolon Forest, and then again starts to ride out towards Skellige, where she has an uncle by marriage. But every time she tries, these safe havens are ripped away from her. There is no escape from who she is and from what she has to do. So it's no coincidence that when she makes the choice to leave a safe haven herself, when she abandons the farmers and goes into the woods, that is when she meets Geralt. Instead of seeking safety, she's left it behind. She's accepted who she is and what she needs to do. So it's in using a non-linear format, by jumping from place to place in time, that The Witcher tells 3 parallel stories over 3 different timelines that all manage to coalesce into one thematic character arc. And as the timelines converge, we see 3 characters who had been split across time, but joined by their thematic journeys, finally set on the path of taking on personal growth together. The path that led to a fated meeting with a girl in the woods.
Toss a coin to your Julien, oh valley of YouTube, oh valley of YouTube, oh. Toss a coin to your Julien, oh valley of YouTube. Give on Patreon $1 like in this song. Give me some money and then more money. Toss a coin to your Julien, oh valley of YouTube, oh valley of YouTube, oh. Toss a coin to your Julien, oh valley of YouTube. Guys, here's Wonderwall.